Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another episode of Self Love Sundays. Can you believe this is week 12? We have a special show today. We've got some nice people with us. And it's your sis Tina Riggs. I'm just so excited to get going here. I forgot to introduce myself. All right, so it's me, your sis Tina Riggs, licensed psychotherapist, film director, and artist. Okay, there's more things, but we ain't gonna go there. Okay, so then we have Stephen Brown, and Stephen Brown is a neuroscientist and a clinical consultant and community activist. We have Dr. Harrison Jones. He's a professor at Grambling State University, and he also is the author of a book called I Used to Hate School. He does other things too, but in the essence of time, we'll move on. And Mr. Cluren Williams. We have author, activist, and artist. He does other things as well. We all do like 18 million things, but we're going to move on. All right. So today, with everything that's going on in the nation, I felt that it was important to focus on the current state of the nation and the impact that it has on our mental health. So that's kind of what we're going to start talking about. And then we're also going to touch on, racial inequality, which goes along with the current state of the nation. And, what we can do on a, local, state level in our various different communities. All right. And some of this, applies to you too. If you have some of the same things going on in your country, I would say just take it and apply it to the country that you're in. We're in the United States, but, we have viewers all over the world. So yeah, I'm sure you can take some of this stuff and apply it to your life as well. All right. So let's get started. So how do you think what all's going on right now in the country is impacting our mental health?
Well, I mean,
I'll go ahead and start. You go ahead.
No, go for it, doctor.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Brown, esteemed neuroscientist. So we wanted to, kind of like see what's Tina brought up a good idea about what is the state of our mental health during this time in this country. And I'm gonna tell you, I was sitting in front of my TV 2 days ago. I turned it on, and I see Donald Trump yelling at his supporters, all of them, thousands of them in the fans, yelling at them, saying, "Hey, we're gonna go change the attitudes of the government. We're gonna make them go change their vote." And then he proceeded to tell them, "I'm gonna walk with you down Pennsylvania Avenue, down to the state capitol, and we're gonna go over there and we're going to fight for democracy. We're gonna fight for our rights. We're gonna make sure that our strength is shown." So he sent all of his followers, thousands of them, up to walk up the Capitol. And I saw thousands of people with red hats on, climbing over walls, climbing into offices, climbing up the steps, climbing up. It was insane. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they even take one step down the street? How can they even get one block down after that statement has been made on, everybody's seen this. I know FBI seen it. I know police department. If I can see it, I know every law enforcement agency is able to see what this man has told his followers to do. He told them to go walk over there and to go ransack the Capitol. Now, most of them, we know what they look like. They don't look like us. So they walked right in. You can see the cop standing right there. I've had several clips where they just open up the gates for them. And and it's almost like,
wow. Wait, hold on.
It's almost like at this point,
I have a rule where I don't watch that much TV. Did you just say that I don't watch that much TV during the work week I don't want to distract myself or let in all these different, energies so I can focus.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say that somebody was opening the gate to let them in?
Oh, the MAGA supporters, all of Donald Trump supporters, thousands of them, a sea of Trump supporters were standing at the gates with the Capitol Police in front of the Capitol.
Wow.
What they chose to do, because of the pressure from them, or whatever it was, they were like, "We want Pelosi. They're yelling out the names. They're yelling out who they want to go because they don't like the liberal left, which Donald Trump has pumped them up to hate."
Okay.
And so they're standing there in front of the Capitol Police, and the Capitol Police literally moved the barricade to the side and allowed them to walk into the United States Capitol. I saw it with my own eyes.
Oh my gosh.
And they walked in, picked it. They were.
Now I knew
I
what
saw
happened,
them
but I
clear
didn't
the
know
way
that there was
to edit.
footage of them like literally. I had suspicions that that's how that happened because there's no other way that that would happen. I mean, we spend the most out of anywhere in the world. This is supposed to be like the most secure nation, right? So how in the world did they get by? Well, people just open the door for them, open the gate.
That's what happened. I mean, literally open the door. Then you have, that's the literally two reasons why that happened. One reason, of course, we all know this. Everybody on this call knows this, white privilege. That's one reason why that happens. Because they know they can get away with whatever they want, then they can go do it. I
Steven,
know if I
seen the
step on the
footage,
store.
Steven?
Oh yeah, I did see the footage, and it's very concerning. And like you mentioned, what I do think that it does for us as African American, especially African American males, is it decreases mental bandwidth. I mean, I was sitting on the couch with my sons, and after years of trying to explain to them about the images that they see on TV with police brutality, and now I have to explain to them about what insurrection is and how during slavery, one of the a lot of the majority population thought that the biggest thing that a black slave could do was do a rise up in insurrection. And so talking to them about the hypocrisy and what the system looks like and how it can how you can make it better was kind of my angle to it. But I can tell that that their psyche was assaulted. My psyche was assaulted by watching.
When you say your psyche was assaulted, can you break that down some more for layman's terms? We know that you are a neuroscientist, but break it down for us a little bit.
Well, yeah, so I work in the field of neuroscience, but I'm a neuroscientist consultant. So, but I definitely, when I say my psyche was assaulted, I mean, to sit there
I'll be right back.
To sit there and kind of be told for so long that you're supposed to conduct yourself a certain way and that certain things are patriotic and certain things aren't. And to know that you are constantly being told that you need to operate in the letter of the law while while white privilege or the dominant culture continues to operate in the spirit of the law, by default, that's an injustice. And I think the more we just keep seeing these injustices on TV, the more you just kind of go, damn, when can I get a shot at a fair shake and just a clear path? And so to sit there and talk to my black sons about, what actions I think they could take and how I think, they can process what they're seeing was very important to me. But like you said, I think that for the most part, it just, for a marginalized group of people who already, historically have not been given a fair shake, to watch those scenes, I think it just continues to take away from the mental bandwidth and the personal work that people could be doing to make themselves better.
Do you feel like, I've had some people inbox me, and even just in my therapy sessions, the overall kind of theme is kind of like, if you're not black, what can I do to make it better? I'm not like that. If it's a white person, if it's a black person, it's like, I'm tired. I was already tired from last year. And now I'm like disgusted and insulted. And I just feel like the whole construct of the country is not set up correctly because it's just not fair. And it's not even being explained, in a way. I mean, a little bit, but I mean, it's just so blatant that there's white supremacy going on. It's hard to have the incentive to go to work, the next day or to go get 5 degrees because at the end of the day, I still won't get the position. I still won't have that access. I still won't. That's how people feel. Like it's, they're doing all the struggling and it's, they're never gonna, be able to get to where they're trying to go.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll say this.
Go ahead. I'll just add this real quick. I was going to say that as a person that has worked, and I'm sure we all have, the third shift, which is, you go to work. The second shift is coming home, taking care of your family. And the third shift is those hours between 11 to 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
To further yourself with continuing education or making yourself better. The hours invested that's taken from from that third shift because you're doing overtime in the first and second shift because you got to explain certain things to your children because you see these images and you constantly are bogged down. And so when you do get to the third shift, your mental is decreased. Your mental bandwidth is decreased. And
Yeah.
so it's like you said, some people might struggle with like, well, what's the point? You know, I'm working the third shift. I can't really focus. Like it's an uphill battle. I might not even get the job. So what's the point? But I want to encourage people to have, practice mental hygiene during these times with the same way we practice hand hygienes, practice mental hygienes with meditation and clearing space so that you can set aside those hurdles and
I
stay
think
focused and
that's
go for the
excellent advice. I think it's important to detach from that TV, like you turn it on or you follow it on social media, however you get your news, and then you just, go back into your own world because it's just going to take you down this like rabbit hole, and have you all emotionally disturbed whenever you have a job to do and a family to take care of and all of that. So I feel like there's a time and a place. You have to like give grieving and give expressing grievances a time and a place in your life, and you can't just like let those emotions freely flow all day and spill all into your, professional work, because that's right where the enemy would want us to be. It's like,
I think that's something that me and Steven talked about just not too long ago, actually. Not having the time to do those things, like not having the time to grieve, not having the time to do the things that you need to do to be as healthy as you can for your family
yeah,
because of what's going on the outside. When I saw the events taking place at the Capitol, the sad thing about me is I could have the first thing I saw was I wish we would do that for what we believe in. Honestly, I really do. As a community, I say that we can say all the look at these white people.
wait a second. Wait, hold on. We're not
Look
inciting
at all these white
violence.
people. Yeah, look at all these white people get away with this. Oh, I can't believe it. And if they were black, they would have shot them as soon as they walked down that street, knowing they was on their way up there with that mess.
Hey,
But that's fine. I understand that. And yeah, but I sat up there with 60,000 people behind me, and majority of them were white. White people getting tired of what's going on too. Because white people are actually having black friends, black girlfriends, mixed children. White people aren't just white people. They are in a community now that we have to represent, and we have to understand that. And so these white people that's flexing their rights, they just that's how you do it. And if we as a community would come together with that in mind and say, okay, yeah, these things are to be expected. We are expecting them to try to hurt us. We're expecting them, but look, they can't hurt all us while we together. Because right now we seeing them hurt us when they catch a black woman, they pull over by herself, and now they taking advantage of her. The camera's watching, the world is watching. She's supposed to go to jail for a ticket. We don't know that she's a licensed teacher or whatever. She plays a big role in our community, and the police is beating her up like a man. Or they're catching our children driving a stolen, unauthorized vehicle, 13, 14 years old, shooting through the car. They're catching kids at the playground. Hey man, a woman that went into a man's house and killed him in his own house, mistaking it for her house. And this is the first time we didn't see somebody really persecuted in a situation like this, but she still only get 10 years. And here we are knowing that we got peers and friends and family members who done got caught with bags of weed, pounds of weed, marijuana, or small drugs, and they got 10 years. And so all these things come into to view, and some of these things we have to look at and realize as leaders in the community, some of these things are either complex, right? Or they're situations where we look at and we try to see if we can find a way to control it. We can't control everything. We can't.
Okay. So what you're saying is that there's a lot of different things going on as far as violence is concerned. And it's like the Black race is being killed unjustly, and also like
I'm saying the leadership of the Black race. I'm saying the people who have the influence on the Black race. I'm saying the people who are having the voice on the Black race. The people who are not afraid to just get together and do things in times of crisis. They're not waiting for Red Cross. They're not waiting for government assistance. They're taking it in their own hands and they're trying to get back to their community. That's what we've been seeing too. We've been seeing a lot of that lately from little bitty people. And so this is what the Black community has been focusing on. And so when we see something like that has happened at the White House with majority white people doing, we shouldn't look at it and say they got away with one. We should say this should encourage us to do the same thing in spite of what somebody might think. I know that's a long. I know that that's something that people who are, because the truth is, let me tell you something about this community. We have two sides. We have the educated Black side and the Black side that we quote unquote call not educated. And these people that we quote unquote call not educated are the people who are quote unquote really the conversation. Because when we're talking about fixing things, there's a separation there. And so we're talking about people who got both feet on the ground, really in the community, watching these things happen, versus somebody who is having a Black experience, but educated and far off from having to put 2 feet in the community. So the conversation would be different.
I like to kind of quickly say something, and I do agree. Watching those images, there was a part of me that kind of was like, I wish that that we will take certain things that far. Now, I don't agree. I think that in order for something to be fair, the truth can't lie in a contradiction. So if we all as a community agree that protesting is appropriate, and civil unrest is a tool to use to create change, then we shouldn't be persecuted or be afraid to use the same tools to be change agents. When studying some history, the capital wasn't occupied like that till 1814, and so those folks think that they are at times of war. And maybe the African American community needs to kind of rev up and say, maybe we are at times of war. But I'll let Dr. Harris say something. But I want to talk about the educated and that divide between educated and uneducated as well.
Dr. Jones.
And y'all, love y'all made some good points. Both y'all made some good points. Why don't we do the same thing? And I'm gonna tell you, I watched when the George Floyd got murdered by the cops, and every night with the protests that happened afterward, they were protesting Houston, Austin, all over the country. So I was glued to Facebook Live every single night. And so I would watch the protests, even in Austin, Texas, okay? I saw people standing on the hill right up there next to I-35, and the police there are shooting at them. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're shooting at them. They're standing feet away, hundreds of feet away from anything, and the police are shooting at them. I remember specifically waking up on one night, I was watching on Facebook Live, and there was a protest right in front of Austin Police Department, and everyone was standing there. I saw the guy that there was some upsetness, and I saw a guy got shot in the head right there in front of Austin Police Department by a police officer. And then there was another person that got shot there. So, the difference will happen is if we were to go to the Capitol State, we were to go to the Capitol at the United States Capitol, they would have been pushing rubber bullets through our heads. They would have been tear gassing us. They'd have been throwing bombs at us. They would have done anything.
So it sounds like the overall, collective
we can't go that
feeling
way.
is that you're not saying that you want to do the same thing that the Trump supporters did.
No.
What you're saying is that you would like to see the same type of, what is it called? Police force or actions taken that are taken against us.
Of course. But my thing is this: we're not talking about the same.
Not equality.
Yeah, Tina, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we're not talking about the same thing. There's some key things we gotta understand. When these white people come like this, they come with their guns. Okay, so at this point, we gotta realize that that black people, we are quote unquote we're gonna be considered terrorists if we walk around with a gun. Now there are demonstrations of organizations who move like that unit. And they all are having the right to carry. And they go to different communities to help support those communities. Now, if you tell me 1,000 people, which there is probably enough organizations that own guns that's fully black, was to go to the Capitol, do you really think these people will be shooting rubber bullets at them?
Sir,
No.
Real
I don't think
No, I'm just saying, maybe if we didn't come in peace, right? Because that was another thing that I feel that the Trump supporters came. They didn't come in peace. They came, like you said, Stephen, ready for war. Can
I say something? Can I say something? We know that wasn't the right way, and we also know that Black people would not have been treated that way. Yeah. So what is the solution? So we've got to complain about it for 20 minutes. What is the solution? What is a way to stay strong mentally as we continue to fight the good fight? I'm not a big believer in holding hands and traveling down the road, locked arms, singing "We Shall Overcome" and getting sprayed with tear gas and saying we made changes. Obviously, that's not working. So what's the new goal? What's the new way? Because that's been the format that we've been doing since the 60s, and I don't see a lot of changes. As a matter of fact, how many Black people were found hanging during the George Floyd protest time over those months? How many? And how many made the news and how many didn't? So that's why I'm saying things still have not changed.
8 people. I'll say this, there is a thing, there is a fact. The thing about when we're talking about what happened at the Capitol, look at the personnel of the people that actually ran up in there. There are people that were running for mayor, they're state legislators, they're police officers, they're teachers, they're principals, there are people that are lieutenant colonels. There was a lieutenant colonel from the United States Air Force that was ransacking the Capitol. There was another Air Force veteran that was shot and killed by going at the Capitol. What I think, so the biggest thing that we should take from this Capitol invasion is that now we see it. We see white supremacy. And the best thing about white supremacy is that it's not true. So they think it. They're delusional. They're off the rocker thinking that they're better because they're white and they should have more privileges for us themselves because of us. So now we're smarter than them. So we have to think smarter than these people, okay? Because they're running our governments. They're in your school district. They're in your government. They're in your state legislature and all things.
Sorry, if we know that there's white supremacy, haven't we always known that? I know it's right in our face now, but what are we gonna do again? Because that's still like talking about what they do, but that's not new news. That wasn't even as horrible as the things that have been happening. It's not as horrible as finding a young 22-year-old hanging in a tree. What they did to the Capitol, as far as I'm concerned, her life was more important than whatever got destroyed in the Capitol. So I would like to talk about, how we're gonna, make some changes. How are we gonna be strong?
I was saying this.
And how are we gonna make some changes in our community? I know one thing. We can point the finger, and it's kind of like a relationship. Let's take the Black and white divide as a relationship. So one person's never at fault, and the other person's always at fault. And one person never says sorry, and the other person is always ready and willing to say sorry all the time. It seems like we're the Black people. We're the Black people, so we're the ones that like to, try to make peace and say sorry all the time. And the other ones just gets to go on their merry way, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Okay. So how are we gonna, in our community, how are we gonna stop doing that? because we still have a problem too, because we can't get along in our own community. We can't even support each other in our own city. Now, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to say that's where we kind of segue into racial inequality and what we can do on a state and local level. Let's break it down because, I mean, wow, the country, the capital, that's really big. We're not, us four ain't going to change anything like right away, but what we can do is focus in on our communities, and we can start to, you know, help to renew the mindset of our community and the citizens in our community, and see what we can do to make some changes that are positive and healthy, so that we're growing and our mindset isn't like, oh, these people hate us, so we're gonna, you know, match the hate in crime with crime, but more so empowerment, education, and supporting and loving each other, because there's power in that love and support. If we don't support each other, we're always going to be on the bottom. We need each other to climb to the top.
Well, you know, and that's the biggest thing that I was saying when you say, what do we do next? Like, when you talk about what are we supposed to do next, when you're saying what do we do from this point on, is that we watch this white supremacist fight, and we need to let them have that battle. I think from this moment, white people are trying to prove to white people that they're good. So we should be thinking ourselves as black people, as people of color, whatever you want to call yourself, that we should just maintain, observe this nonsense going on, because you saw the Capitol. It's white people pushing against white people, and they're mad because they want some white people like black people, and other white people don't like black people. And so we have to say, step back, watch them, let them sort this thing out between themselves. Don't risk our lives. Stay focused on yourself, self-love, making sure you're meditating, like Stephen said earlier, making sure you're staying healthy, get your fitness going, making sure you're eating, because the best thing you can do is survive this pandemic, survive this situation, make it to next January 20th, and we'll talk about all the great things that happened after this year, but as a result of you surviving. So I think as far as mentally and health-wise, just make sure you maintain and eat your vitamin D. Make sure that you're just staying healthy, because that's their fight. I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, man, they're arguing amongst each other. The Republicans are fighting within their own chambers. You know what I'm saying? They don't like each other. Mike Pence has a target on his back from Trump supporters, and Mike Pence has been
sounds like
Donald
we're doing
Trump's
the same things,
vice president for the past 3 years.
Because it doesn't seem like we like each other either. Doesn't seem like we like each other either. I'm just being frank. So how are we going to make some changes if no one support anyone?
For real.
And doing it. I mean, there's some badass people here.
That's the goal. Is to show that we fit.
5 badasses from every city could collectively get together and stop trying to be the superstar and just, you know, all get together. I mean, there's how many states? So 5 top leaders and activists from every single city in every single state of the 48. Is it 48 states? 50? How many states does America have? The 48? 50. You know, everyone, you know, if every city could get together, I mean, that would be a movement. But it seems like we can't, you know. It seems like we can't. We just can't do it. Maybe that's where we need to start. I think that's part of mental health. It's part of like, what's going on in here that makes you think that if you collaborate with someone who's doing something similar to you, but a whole different brain, a whole different final end goal than you, but you kind of do some of the same things, what makes you feel as though you're not safe to work with that person because y'all kind of do the same thing? Do you not understand that there's power in numbers? It's not about your showcase of your protest. It's not about, you know, your time on this particular news station. It's about healing as a whole and as a collective. And if we can't get that hating each other part down, we can just, you know, go home and complaining.
I think what we're starting to do here locally in Austin, with the leadership here, we're starting to encourage more people to come out and push them into leadership, because one thing for sure is we've adapted a leadership in Austin that was kind of groomed. It wasn't really born. It wasn't a born leadership. It really wasn't an authentic leadership. It's a lot of adopted leadership that where they've done great and tremendous things in the places that they come from, and then they come here and they work on the behalf of the Black community, because one thing we all will have always is a Black experience. And so that is enough to be able to be in certain positions in Austin and speak for a Black community as if you were born and raised here and you know the culture. And we spoke about this before already, Tina, about how the way the Black community move here and lead and things
And how is that? Educate people. How is that? Some people don't know.
and like we discussed, that they have this on my own island mentality, and we have to rephrase that. We have to let people know that no one man is an island. No one man and no one woman is an island. It is the same for those who need to hear this. We have to pull together. We have to pull together. Here locally, the police have already killed 2 or 3 people this year alone. We're in the 7th,
This
8th day of
year.
Wait, what?
This year.
the police
This
department
year.
have already
You're right.
found 2. They've already found a way to kill. You know, they the #1 murderers so far. You know, so right here locally, we are not able to produce a worldwide discussion about a city who has a police unit who has murdered more people in Austin, have died to a police unit, than any other city in the United States of America. And so we reflect on days like when we had the bomber, the Austin bomber. He was going around. I don't know if you remember that, Tina. Just a couple years ago, he was going around bombing the house. Now here we are with a national terrorist in right here on MLK, Martin Luther King Boulevard, and they won't call him that. They just say he's a good old boy, and the story never goes national. And then they allow him to blow himself up on down right here, down yeah, and blow. And so what I'm saying is, Austin has a way to smother the seriousness of things that we have to endure. The quality of life of Black people here is tremendously low, but we have all the resources that a Black person could ever dream of. You can't find a city, Atlanta, maybe Houston a little bit, but Dallas, nowhere where you can go, California, Chicago, nobody has more resources for the Black man and woman than Austin, Texas. Okay. But the sad part about it is the quality of life for people here is low. And so the Black community on foot watches other Black people come in from different cities and different states and land the good jobs at Google, land the good jobs at Facebook, land the good tech jobs, land the jobs downtown. And here they are, locals, and never been even asked for the opportunities. These things are happening also. And
Is it
so
an educational issue? Is it like,
it's
low income, low education?
a lot, and I would like actually for Steven to touch a little bit on that, because of what he's been through personally when it comes to dealing with our people on that side. As I said, even in Austin, the Austin Police Department has murdered 2 people already this week. And so we haven't even been able to really pay attention to it because we've been hit with 24 hours surveillance on what's going on at the White House. So the community leaders ain't been able to get up and organize against this, and because this is a murderous police department. Again, my brother was shot 12 times by the Austin Police Department and survived. And the story behind this, we still haven't received justice. Mike Ramos's family still hasn't received justice. And yeah, you were right, Dr. Jones. There was tremendous backlash from the way these protests were set up. One of those protests during the George Floyd shooting, I started the initial protest at 10:30 at night. I got 300 people together. It did get crazy toward the end, but it got crazy because there were some extremist protesters, a white group who would come antagonize the police, literally come just to throw water bottles and piss on them and all this other crap. And guess what? I'm the only person that had a full Black and Hispanic mobilized protest. Before the white people showed up and pulled the stunt, the police did not do anything. Soon as they came and started throwing bottles and big trash and all kind of different objects at the laws, that's when they started shooting.
Okay.
And so
that's why, you know why they do that? They do that because they're on both sides. They're on both sides.
They're on both sides. They're on both sides. But I didn't invite them.
The people that are coming in, they working together to create a theater for conflict, to be able to look like whatever y'all are doing is charged. That's why every time something happens between a Black Lives Matter protest group and police, it always, or even an innocent, like they say there's a truck where something goes wrong, they say Antifa was doing this and Antifa was doing that, but it's really one of the Trump supporters that are infiltrating those the protests and those things that are causing those problems every single time. That's what I've seen. Most of the people that have been arrested for burning down the police station, for burning down the places, have been white supremacists. And what they're doing, and that's why I say about the protest, is what they're doing with the protest and with the George Floyd thing is they drew us out, and then they make us look crazy. Because then they try to call us terrorists because we were upset about George Floyd, and instead of storming the Capitol like they did, we decided to walk down the street and march and sing Kumbaya. But the bag supporters decided to storm the Capitol. So we didn't decide to do that. What we decided to do was peaceful. And so when we were peaceful, they're going to shoot us with bean bags and hoses out. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't bring the hoses yet, but they're telling us that this is the limit. This is the limit of what you can do. You can't go any further than this, Black people. Because guess what? If you decide that you're going to walk to this police station, we're going to shoot all of y'all. If you decide that you're going to step on the steps of that Capitol, we're going to shoot you. But guess what? My white brother, they could walk right on in. And so it's a real talk. Like, what if we decided to storm the Capitol after they didn't find the cops that arrested Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, that's why locally we've been having different. That's why locally we've been having different meetings with the leadership of Austin to break down the old bad blood between leaders. Just like you were saying, Tina, how can we get all these people together? Okay. So what we do now is we have these meetings, right, with the city council members, every mayor from Round Rock to Maynard to Pflugerville to Austin. We have us all. We sit down here and we all talk like off the books, right? On a personal level about what we need to empower other leaders so we can pull together to actually make the changes. Now, for an activist, the ultimate goal should be having a law change or being a part of having a law change. I've had laws change. I've been a part of having laws change with the legislature. Now, with me, my opinion that the only way we can ever see some real true change is by changing the law. And that, even if that means removing the discretionary out of it or getting rid of the entire law. So sometimes with me, it's not changing law, it's just removing it. Sometimes it's not even about changing, rewording it. It's just simply removing it. And these things that I figure can give us the 10-year span of our children living in a certain different type of environment, outside of being actually vocal, outside of being a footman and getting on the ground and doing protests and putting up events and organizing campaigns to do this. That's what we need to. That's what we're working on here right now.
Okay. I think that we get it, and we want to not focus so much on the activist part. We want to make sure that the conversation doesn't get tipped one way. So we know that activism needs to happen, but I think relationally and emotionally and mentally, there's a lot of steps that have to happen before that can. You know, maybe like 5 people again in the city that are there and ready to do the activism, but you need the community behind you to be more powerful. So it's about, you know, touching the hearts and touching, you know, the homes of those who have been forgotten. How can we make that difference? How can we provide mental health care, actual health care, you know, from doctors to these people? Are they going to have access to the vaccine because it's going to grocery stores and they live in, what are they called? What is it called? Deserts? Steve, unmute yourself.
I think he's on.
Steven,
I think
we can't hear you.
if you have,
but what I was saying is, you know, like, so there's not grocery stores in some of these lower income neighborhoods. So, you know, other people can make it easily to HEB or wherever the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine is being, you know, distributed. But in these other areas, you know, they're not able to get to a grocery store and there's not one in their neighborhood. So, you know, by default, they're kind of being forgotten again, you know.
the biggest thing now, you know how we say arrest the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor. The biggest thing we say now should be get the vaccine. We need the vaccine. Everybody needs to get the vaccine. It has to be out. I know some people are skeptical about taking it and all these things, but I'm telling you right now, we dropped the ball already with the vaccine distribution, even between the elderly at this point. So even when it's going to go to the people that are young, the younger people that are in the force, it's going to be even more out of whack because there's no plan. So whenever Joe Biden gets in office, he's already talking about doing universal vaccine, having everybody send out more and more doses. But one of the things is that we have to demand it. You have to demand it because they're not going to give it to us. And then a lot of things that people are saying, well, it might kill us and all this other stuff. But, you know, 300,000, almost 385,000 people have died from coronavirus over the past, since April. Was it? And so I was just saying, like, we have to start thinking about from the in the United States alone. And so we have to start thinking in 4,000 was like 2 days ago, 4,000 in one day. That's like more than 9/11. And so if we have people if we're having a 9/11 every day, like 9/11 is going on every single day. Like, I don't see how we have to start thinking like that, where we have to start saying we have to care for our neighbors, we have to care for each other, care for the essential workers, care for the nurses. And I think a big thing, that's one of racial inequality, and that's one of the big things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are big on now, is that they're going to make sure they get it out there to everyone.
I feel like we got to heal from the inside out, though. I'm going to keep going back to that because you can point fingers all damn day. But at the end of the day, we can talk about so many aspects to the inequalities and the ways that we've been treated throughout history. You know, having this brown skin is, you know, such a curse, such a, you know, what is it called? You know, a signal to be discriminated against comfortably without really being called out, without any severe consequences or repercussions. So we know that part. So we know that the world doesn't like love us that way. So how are we going to learn to heal and love ourselves? So right? So how are we gonna? It starts from within. You cannot, you know, if you have hormonal pimples, hi dermatologist. If you have hormonal pimples, there is something going on the inside that's making the little white, you know, pus-filled things on your face. So you can use as many different, you know, creams and, you know, things you find online and buy Proactive and all these things. And you're going to find that you just keep getting this acne because it's a hormonal thing that needs to be treated from the inside, you know, and, you know, we're seeing all of the sickness in our race on the outside, and we're also seeing how we're being treated, right? But we're not banding together and healing ourselves and healing as a whole race. That way we can come out more powerful and be more empowered. But we just can't skip over that part of not supporting each other, loving each other, and not even knowing how to love ourselves properly. All of that is like background work that has to be done, because we got to go back and, you know, take care of our families, take care of the family curses, take care of the generational curses that, you know, some of them were caused, and a lot of them were caused by discrimination and by all of the things that, you know, we've suffered in this Black race. You know, that stuff has to be talked about, eradicated spiritually, emotionally, mentally, in order for us to really see some, you know, change that's gonna stand the test of time. You know, fighting what you fighting for. You're fighting for this one act. There's gonna be 20 more acts tomorrow. So we're gonna run around here like chickens with our head cut off, complaining and fighting everything, or are we going to heal, empower ourselves, and come into positions and places of power? Healing and empowering yourself also means educating yourself. So you're also going to have to make sure that you educate yourself and are able to go take the state bar, are able to get into politics, are able to have people behind you that vouch for you. So in order to do that, we still again have to heal ourselves, and we have to heal the generational curses. And then we also have to what? Go educate ourselves, because that education is going to help. So now you got support, you love yourself, your community loves itself, and you are now educated. Now you go forth and you go get those positions or create the position.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, sorry for having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Now, I mean, Dr. Jones mentioned some things earlier too about when he noticing what was going on in Washington, that the personnel, right? So I do think educating yourself and getting involved so that we can have the right personnel in place so that we can really make changes is important. You know, I in 2012 I sued the city of Austin for their unfair practices when it comes to hiring African American firefighters here in Austin, and was successful. Was able to get the city to reach a settlement, and was also able to get some priority hires. A result of that was 30 black firefighters and a black police firefighter chief.
Wow, that's
That
awesome.
lost it. So saying that to say that local things do matter, and when you get involved and you educate yourself, one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of black people don't really know the education or the history behind what took place here in Austin. Even prior to the 1928 master plan, there were 15 freed communities here that were destabilized due to that master plan, right? So even the origin of the Austin Police Department in 1875, city council and mayor called a special meeting together just to decide what they're going to do with the influx of freed black slaves here in Austin. And out of that meeting came the Austin Police Department. So we know that the origin of these things, where they come from, but when it comes to being change agents, we have to educate ourselves on what took place, what our true inheritance is here in Austin, and then not let the things of your past dictate or delegitimize you from participating in the system. So just because I talk to a lot of brothers who think, well, I got a record or I have this, maybe I can't participate, but they little do they know that they've been fed misinformation by the system, the power construct, to get them to not have them participating. So being immune to no's. That's why I say working on that mental hygiene so that you are being resilient, building resilience to say, you know what, I don't care if I'm gonna walk into this office full of white people and ask a question that it might feel like public humiliation. I'm gonna go do it anyway, and feeling like you have the community support, feeling like if you do come back with your feelings hurt, you're gonna be built right back up so that you can get right back in the game, because we need the personnel to infiltrate their systems, but we also need educated folks with lived experience to build a new system and a new way forward. So I think I may have missed some of the conversation about the educated and uneducated, but I just want to say this. There is no one component more important than the other. We need educated folks to study the history, to do the work on one end, whether it be research, whether it be, and then bring that information back to the street folks so that they can get stuff done. And we need the street folks to give feedback. And so it's a yin and yang. And so enough of the, well, one position is more important than the other. This is a collective, monolithic approach to systematic change. And the only way we do that is multi-pronged. So
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I was saying as far as when it comes to leadership, not building a healthy leadership, building a healthy mind frame and spiritual mind frame for the elite who are responsible for. Like I say, we have a black person responsible for the human resources in Austin. Okay, we have some black people that's in position that can help the quality of life for African Americans, and the people before us in the community's eyes, they failed us. And so that's where you had the separation between educated and non-educated. You get what I'm saying? Or for some, some people may have experienced it when, if they were in black families, where if you went to church, everybody would support you. But if you didn't go to church, you were like, quote unquote, like the black sheep. You don't want to go to church, but we ain't gonna, yeah. So you maybe I experienced that before. And so if we can quit doing that to one another here and say, hey man, when there's an opportunity for us to speak highly of somebody, whether they are known or not known, in those small rooms, we take that advantage of that chance and not say something about ourselves. But hey, I met Tina. She's doing this. She's doing this. Hey, guess what? You need to know her. And this is in the small rooms. I'm talking about the rooms where don't nobody even know that these conversations are going on.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's people like Steven that may be invited. I may invite it. You may be invited. Dr. Jones, you may be invited. And at some point, there'll be an opportunity for you to actually go to that table and not suck up all the shine, not suck up all the resources and say, well, if you deal with me, I'll help you. But if you don't, I won't help you. And that's kind of how the leadership has been doing one another, biting at each other piece by little piece.
Wow. This is some really good stuff. Again, these are uncomfortable conversations, and we are in no way talking politics. This is about race. I don't know. This guy here could be fiscally, conservative and socially, liberal. We're not here, talking about, who's red and who's blue, or the Crips or the Bloods.
and I feel like,
go ahead.
I feel like I've been on both sides of that. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Jones can tell. I mean, I consider myself a hood guy. I grew up not thinking that I was supposed to be in many of the spaces that I've been in. I've also learned the power that education does bring, and it allows you into certain rooms, and it allows you to hold space for other folks coming up. And so, I do think that if you are amongst the educated blacks, and you do look non-threatening to the system or to white circles, and they invite you in, you do have a duty to hold space to make sure that you when that other brother or sister is getting healed, that they will be there with you in numbers, so that we can continue to further agenda. But it's not just changing this system, it's also having some independence in working towards creating another system. I mean, the law of motion says what's at rest wants to stay at rest, and what's in motion wants to stay in motion. And it takes equal or greater force to either stop it or get it going. And so if oppression, if injustice, if all those forces are in motion, then we need to create something of equal or greater force to either put it back at rest or to make it stop. And so creating that own system, working within the group to do so is, I mean, I think that natural law is applicable in this situation.
Yes. I just, I always say you have to find your tribe, and that still applies with everything that's going on right now in the world. How are we going to beat this? How are we going to overcome this? We got to find our tribes of people that are going to be willing to, like you said, hold space, or, let a show be about this topic, or, collaborate with someone else and not be afraid that they're going to steal their shine. This is like stuff that no one talks about, but this is why we don't get anywhere, because, people are too afraid that you're going to steal their thunder. They can't even click like on your projects that are impacting the community. I mean, wow. If they click like on, again, WAP. We're going to be on WAP for a long time till the new thing comes out. It's really sad. It's like, how is this hurting you? Sharing this thing that can help the people that even if it doesn't apply to you, how is that hurting you? Are you doing the same project? It's very bizarre behavior that we have as a collective. Not everyone. Remember, these are not blanket statements, but as a collective, we got some healing to do. That we feel so threatened by other people's success in our own skin color community that we can't share, we can't speak, we can't collaborate, we're not going to get anywhere. We got a lot more healing to do. So this time that we're in quarantine, we really need to be healing ourselves from the inside out. That way we can make an impact while we have power, with the turning of, the presidencies, and maybe we have some people that are in these positions who can help us, but let's not waste these 4 years of this opportunity still, trying to snatch each other back down into the crab barrel. Fuck it.
I think it's important to really communicate with each other the value proposition of why it's actually beneficial for you to cooperate with each other as opposed to compete. And I think the value proposition is that we will have an opportunity, because we all
Absolutely. An opportunity for them, for their children, for their children's children. We're just trying to set things up and get things in motion. That's it. We're not.
That's the value
part of the party. I don't even have time to be that. I got like 5 businesses, so we just want to come together in love and in unison, and that's it. I don't understand. We just got to heal. It's not something that I'm saying in a mean way. It's out of love. Like, come on. Whatever that thing is, it's a different thing for everybody, but whatever it is inside of your particular heart that makes you feel as though you can't support your cousin, even in your own family, your brother that has, doing something that helps people, that's a social service thing, that is a community action thing, that is a, against police brutality thing. Why are you not supporting that? Then you want to sit in front of your phone or in front of TV or cackle away on your computer and, be complaining. You are the problem, because you got to love yourself enough to be able to love somebody else. So we got a lot of work to do. So all of this whole topic, it seems like we're not on Self-Love Sundays, but it does come right back home to the fact that we all have more work to do. Even the people that don't have that problem have work to do, because you can't give up and be like, you know what, I give up on all of you guys. I ain't like that. I'm going to go hang out with people that don't have these issues. That's how we have this divide. But you can't give up on your people. You got to go back and you got to help, and you got to continue to love. You got to continue to educate. You got to continue to show up whenever they can't show up for themselves. You got to continue to pray and stand in the gap for them whenever they can't do it for themselves, until we all, get better, or a good amount of us get better, to where we can get a good solid foundation going, and then we can get some momentum going, and then we can have some change come. But there's just so much healing that has to be done first. There's a lot of hurt. That's why there's so much healing to do, because we've been hurt. But we are responsible for the healing part after the hurt. Because once we heal, there's power in that story of how we healed. We share that, we connect together, we come together with that spirit of just rebuilding yourself. When you rebuild yourself, you become stronger. So, you have the emotional strength, you have the spiritual strength, the physical strength, you have the education behind you, and you have support from your community. I mean, we're just going to propel, skyrocket, But we got to take responsibility for our own things inside of us that are making us not want to join forces with each other.
I'm on board with that. I mean, that sums a lot of it up in a nutshell. And, we really need to start sharing tools and techniques of how to heal. As someone who's worked in surgery for 15 years, we know that it's not just enough for the patient to receive a good procedure. We know that when they come out of the operating room, the real battle starts with the recovery, and a lot of the recovery, most of it is psychological. If you're not in a good headspace, you go into that procedure and not in a good headspace, you don't go back into a good environment. There's a lot of hurdles. And so having community support, being open and honest with where you are in life, what station you are, how can your support system help you? And also be willing to go outside your support system. I love the church, but sometimes you need a counselor. Sometimes you need to seek professional guidance. Sometimes you might need chemicals or medicine. Like Dr. Jones said, if you live in an adverse impact and you want to get back to normal, you might need to take the vaccine. But if you feel like you eat clean and you run it and you exercise and you have a different way of life, then maybe you don't need the vaccine. But that's your body, your choice. But still, we can't knock each other, and everyone heals at different rates. Mm-hmm. But we need to be willing to go to our neighbor's house and be willing to change their bandage.
Amen. And on that note, we're going to stop for today. We're going to have some topics like this going on for the rest of the month as we lead ourselves on into Black History Month. All right. I just want to say thank you for watching. Share this. Check out all the people on the panel. Go to the Thought Positive Media page. Read the text inside of the a synopsis of what today's show is about, and you're going to find these guest information there so you can, find out more about them. We love you guys. I know this wasn't the most fun episode, but, we want to say see you next Sunday. Have a wonderful week. Try to hang on, do something else for your mental health. Peace, love, and light, and see you next Sunday.
All right. Peace.